From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of My Burbank Talks, presented by the staff of My Burbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here with you once again, along with, of course, the infamous Ross Benson.
Hi there.
Well, here we go.
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
I guess I haven't been in the studio in a week.
No, but I have.
I bet you have.
Sometimes I feel like I live here sometimes. Okay, well let's take a look, see at the week that was, and the week that'll be. It looks like once again, the week before Labor Day, the weeks leading up to Labor Day, it's a little less hectic than usual. So not as much as it usually is, but there's enough to talk about here. Let's go back to last Tuesday's council meeting.
Was it raining last Tuesday? Oh, okay.
No, I think that was the weekend. Was it the weekend? No, it was the weekend. Cats and dogs living as one.
Well, all I know is I'm losing weeks here.
Well, I agree. Back to the council meeting. The only major item was the RFP, and the RFP stands for Request for Proposal, and that's about the Burbank Center Stage, which of course we all know is the Colony Theater. And the council basically has decided that they are going to now take the matter up for themselves, and they're going to come up with their own questions and do their own interviews in an open public meeting. And they're going to decide who the best tenant for the Burbank Center Stage, also known as the Colony Theater, will be. And I think that's a real good decision, and once again, a responsible decision.
Well, I kind of paid attention to that meeting. It was a full house, and it was a hot topic. But, there were a lot of speakers. And I got to say, our former mayor, good friend of ours, Marcia Ramos, got up and spoke and said, you guys don't have all the facts here. How can you make a decision?
Good point.
And I believe it was Councilmember Mullins that basically went with that theory that after hearing both sides talk, all the input, they didn't have a fair what's in front of them on what to do. Well, and that's been the screwy thing of this whole process.
I mean, I blame Park and Rec. I really do. I think they've dropped the ball on this completely. I think they've had a situation where they're not over their heads, but they're just there's too many fish in the ocean for them. I mean, look what Park and Rec. They have the golf course, they've got the tennis center, they've got the hockey rink over at Quick Green. Yeah, they've got the animal shelter, and they got the Starlight Bowl, and they got Burbank Center Stage, and I'm sure they have more than that too, and maybe they just have too much. Maybe they need to have dedicated people who are always on these things instead of coming up and saying, "Oh, we got to worry about this now. Somebody go do that for us."
Well, they said at that meeting, and it kind of blew me away.
But they had one guy doing it. But then the golf course came up, and he had to go run the golf course.
Right, the person that just blows me away. That okay,
so
we have an emergency at the golf course. They take one person. They said they moved his office to the golf course. I'm sorry, you can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time? I understand.
What, we have nobody else? We have how many assistant directors there paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and there's nobody else who can say, okay, I've got the, I'll take that on. I mean, I'm sorry. It just doesn't sound like a good excuse. And they did go over the proposals 4 or 5 years ago and awarded to the colony back then. And I said, well, that wasn't really an RFP. Well, you had a contract with them. We did a new contract. Why is that not a good enough situation? Well, there's a lot of I'm going to say I'm very happy with the council. I really think our council now is more in tune with the people than our councils in the past. I think our councils before were bureaucratic and just they didn't really understand the pulse of the city and the pulse of the people. They just kind of associate with the same people over and over again, really, and I got the same opinions over and over from people. I think they're a lot more in tune now. They're a lot more modern thinking, and they're trying to do the right thing, I think.
Well, I agree. I will say that when Councilmember Mullins brought up how they should move forward, I'm sorry to say, everything falls on our city manager. Our Parks Department is a division of the city, right? Like Public Works, right? Like the Police Department, the Fire Department, Finance. Was our city manager aware of all the, as Mike Nolan would say, I won't say it.
Oh, you can say it. We're a PG show.
It just kind of gets me how that whole process worked. And it didn't. And I think...
No, you're right. It didn't work. And maybe he's not, because who knows what kind of reports he gets to the staff meetings. If you're not doing your job very well, you got to come to your boss and say, we're kind of dropping the ball on this, but just so you know, we're dropping the ball on this. They're not going to say anything to the and how's the city manager supposed to know there's a problem until this all of a sudden? I'm sure he's a little bit embarrassed by it too, because he doesn't want problems in the city. He wants the city to run smoothly. We got enough things to worry about, more or less, than things like this coming up. But this and the renters and everything else, there's a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah, and on this one, it just, the process that they're going to go through, they're going to open it up, and they're going to, like you said, they're going to set questions for each, what do you call them?
Proponent, or not proponent, applicant.
Applicant. And then they're going to have them either, sit outside while the other one answers it. And I think doing it out in the public, how they've decided to do it.
Absolutely.
I'm way to do it.
Yeah. Is that going to be a long meeting? And yeah. But you know what? But here's also a thing too. After Tuesday's meeting, they're not having another meeting again until September 12th. And we'll talk about that in a second, about the Wednesday meeting. But you know what? If we have these meetings going to 1 a.m. or why not have I'm not sure how it happens. I'm not sure how the municipal code does it. Maybe the mayor calls it. I'm sure that's probably how it has. The mayor would say, we're going to have a special meeting, but maybe they had to add a meeting here and there to cover things like this and have a dedicated meeting to this process only.
Well, I thought that's what they decided they were going to do, because I thought Nikki Perez said, we need a meeting that we have this item only.
Well, yeah, but I hope that's that's in the plans, because that's what they need to do. And I just think if they need to call special meetings, they need to call special meetings.
Right.
I just think there's no meeting for 3 weeks, and when we get our next item too, then I think it's going to be something that But yeah, to finish up this subject here, good for the council, and whoever they decide, at least we'll all understand why now. And I'd like everybody to read Lisa Prentice's story, our associate editor. She wrote, once again, an amazing follow-up piece about the entire meeting and what happened, and some comments from people and everything else. But still, no comments from the YMCA. They still will not. And that bothers me. That why aren't they talking about this publicly? Why won't they?
Did you notice at the meeting, they did not listen to know how our city council works. They had a ton of people in there. They all signed to speak at the first oral.
Yeah, at the first oral.
And it's very clear.
Not when the item came up.
So when the item came up, and the council had already listened to the consent agenda and everything else, then they open up the hearing. Nobody from the YMCA could speak because they all spoke prior.
Well, the funny part also was that as the mayor called Mr. Greenpeace or Mr. Green.
Well, that's one of the.
Yeah, but he didn't use his name. He kept calling him by his organization. So it was probably not as respectful as it could be, but it was kind of comical. And I think he was doing it in, he asked the guy to come up and talk because the guy didn't come up during the presentation. And I thought, once again, good. That's what we need. We need to find out. And you're not going to find out by silence.
Well, and also listening to the why they did speak during first orals, and they have some very, very intelligent people at the Y and running the Y. And they got up and spoke very eloquently. You could tell they've, taken their courses in, so forth. But like I said, wrapping this up, I'm glad it'll go back and the council will make the decision and make it public in front of everybody and so forth.
And we'll let everybody know when that's going to happen in advance. And, you should tune in. I mean, is it exciting television? No. But, if you're involved in your city, you want to know what's going on here, you should pay attention to things. Now, talk about paying attention to things. The next day, they did have a special meeting of the council because of, once again, council districts.
They did?
Yeah, they did.
When?
That was on Wednesday.
Come on, where was I?
You were sleeping, but you woke up in time for the end of the vote. Anyhow, so basically they had another meeting and they asked them to just maybe make some recommendations and decide some stuff. And it was bad timing. It was bad timing because the city of Santa Monica had filed lawsuits and had gone to appellate court and now to the California Supreme Court, and they weren't due to make the decision until the next day. So I'm thinking to myself, knowing that it was going to come out on Thursday, why either A, did they not have the meeting after it came out on Thursday or Friday, or you needed a couple of days to digest it and have the meeting on Monday, and be able to use that as part of their criteria? Well, no, they kept saying, well, we don't know what they're going to say. We don't know what they're going to say. And we can't make a decision because we don't know what they're going to say. Is Santa Monica going to win? Is the people in Santa Monica, who's going to win? And what's the decision going to be? So the decision was not to make a decision. And once again, bring it back on September 12th's agenda. Because guess what? September 12th probably doesn't have enough stuff on their agenda anyway. And my point, once again, if you had a special meeting for this, why not have a special meeting again?
Talking about that, I will agree. I will say back to, the colony or the theater, they have so much going on prior to the actual agenda starting. Presentations. It was over an hour and a half of presentations before they got to the official city agenda.
That's a good point because there's so, and I get it. We want to recognize groups and people and individuals and all. Absolutely. And, who was the man who passed away, our fundraising, Roy
Wigan.
Roy Wigan. Very well done. I'm not going to say that they shouldn't be doing that stuff, but you're right. If you want to do that stuff, then why not do it before you go to closed session?
Right.
If closed session starts at, let's say 6:00, well, why not do your presentations at 5:00? 6:00 go to closed session, 7:00, or 4:00 do your presentations, 5:00 go to private session, 6:00 start your meeting with your agenda.
Because I was told that the council chambers was filled to capacity for the stuff before. They don't, it's just how they all, and I'm finding they're doing more presentations, and I know that's the mayor's prerogative, but it takes so much time. They want to make I think there were 4 presentations plus the memorial.
And of course, the key to the city.
Oh, that's
and what exactly does that key open?
I'm afraid to say.
Maybe
what? We might have to go to Story Hardware.
Maybe it's maybe it's that mystery room on top of City Hall where they used to have the radio tower. Who knows? You got to probably open something.
So, with the Supreme Court decision, what happened was Santa Monica lost.
Well, no, Santa Monica didn't lose. They kind of ruled in the way of one party, but they said, we're sending the case back to the appeal court to have a further ruling done first. So basically, I think I have it here.
Page 2 of our show notes.
Right. The California Supreme Court sided with the Pico Neighborhood Association and against the city of Santa Monica. So yes, I guess they did against Santa Monica, but in its challenge to Santa Monica's at-large system of electing its council, the Supreme Court sent the case back to the Court of Appeals for an analysis of the issues consistent with their ruling. So they're trying to say, okay, why did you rule that way? And then we can come back and talk to you. The court reversed a ruling by lower courts that had favored the city of Santa Monica, but the justice specifically said they were not picking a winner. So they didn't really pick a winner in the case. Instead, the case should be reheard, reevaluated under a different criteria. So what does that mean? What is that for Burbank? What's the...
Well,
what does that mean, you know?
The sad thing is, I think we all realize council districts are coming. They're going to divide up our city. Either
well, not
sure.
if I have any say so in it.
Well, but we're 2 votes versus.
But who are we, right? I mean,
we're 2 voices, and you know what?
I think the voice is reason sometimes.
It really kind of gets me. Half of the people in this town, if you ask about council districts, they're going to go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that's. So the council chambers were packed the other night, and nobody there at all, hardly, for the council district meeting.
Right.
It was just, it was crickets.
Nobody spoke. Nobody spoke on it. Oh, maybe, one of the...
And here's the thing, they still have to decide. They're still going to have to decide, okay, how many districts are there going to be? Will there be a full-time mayor? Are they going to switch to districts? From what I understand, to change it, there's certain things we can do without changing the charter, but to have the districts, we have to change the charter, but we can have 5 districts without a charter amendment. But then you have to have a charter amendment to have districts. You can have as many as you want. So there were certain things they were trying to get around in a charter amendment, from what I could understand.
But it doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, they still haven't figured out who's going to be counting the votes for them.
Well, that's a whole other subject too. They talked about ranked choice voting. You did our podcast. What was it? 6 months ago, and he was very much. I can't remember his name, but a huge proponent of ranked choice voting, and he's upset that they never had brought it up. Well, now they're bringing it up, and one of the things on the agenda was let's send a request to LA County to see, can you guys put together a ranked choice voting system to count votes for us? And the result of the vote was, we're going to hold off till after the March election to ask them. So that vote was 3-1 with Tamara Takahashi saying, no, we're not going, she voted no, but she wanted to ask them right away and so to get the process in motion. So the rest of the council kind of wants to wait till after March, and I guess to figure out, is this going to be on the ballot or not? And if it's going to be on the ballot, then how's it going to do on election day? And then we can decide if we're going to do ranked choice voting or not. So
now correct me again if I'm wrong. The setup to do the voting and the tallying and all that, doesn't it cost like $1 million?
I don't think it's cost that much. We should find out. That's a good question. I'm really not sure because we pay the county.
Right, we pay the county to do it.
We used to do it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, we used to do it ourselves here, and the city clerk would run the election. Yep. And then, have the projector out in the
I remember
foyer in City Hall, and they'd come out and write down the votes, and we'd all sit out there and see the new vote counts. And
I remember when we were in a group called Neighborhood Radio Watch. We had CBs, and where the council members lived, we would have somebody at their house to tally because back then they had
no way of that's right.
Day. But it's a ton of money. Either way you look at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. They're going to have to decide. And I'm going to tell you right now, if it comes down to voting for a charter amendment to have districts or not, and this ruling, now, I was a little bit. I'm saying no to the districts. I want, without a doubt, I want no districts. And I was going to say we need to fight it no matter what. But if this ruling had come down and Santa Monica would have lost outright, I'm thinking, okay, well, if we do it, it's going to cost us millions of dollars, and we're probably, and is that the best for our city? But without a clear decision, and the fact that we have some similarities but some differences, until the state says exactly, the state Supreme Court says exactly what they're going to do, I'm saying we fight this. And if it does wind up costing us some money in court, then that's what you're talking about, changing the way of life in Burbank for generations to come. And look at the problems in LA right now in their districts. Now, how many other people are going to jail right now? Another guy got sentenced today for like 3 years or something.
Right.
And so what you're going to have is this: we're going to have districts, and in the districts, District 1 and District, they're going to have a project in District 1 or something, and the guy in District 1 says, the guys in District 2 and 3, if you vote for me on this project, I'll vote for you on that project. And all of a sudden, we're going to start making backroom deals.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that this council is going to, in any way, I think we have a good council, but you know what? Down the line, 5 years from now, 10 years, 20 years from now, it might become political machines. And political machines are going to run the each district. And to me, it's corruption, possible corruption. It's backroom deals. We have 5 people sitting on that dais up there, and all 5 responsible to every citizen of Burbank. It's a whole different deal for me.
Oh, I agree. And like I've said, to me, it's dividing our community up. The school district, I'm told, already has their districts formed. They're ready to go march.
Yeah, well, I guess it might be nice if they haven't said a word to the media about it.
Well, they haven't said to anybody.
No, it's once again, it's a
like,
secret school district. You never know what goes on in that behind their closed doors there.
I've talked to people, and it's not real public.
No, nothing.
You could ask teachers that work in the district and have no clue that the school district is dividing.
Why do you think 10 of the 19 principals left? It was all lack of communication. It wasn't money. It wasn't working. It was just they were just fed up with the administration, and and now if they promote from within to superintendent, what's going to change?
I don't want to get into that because
that's not getting. Yeah, I agree. It's a whole different subject, but I just think they need to be more transparent in a lot of things they do.
Transparent.
Okay.
Like our city is. Moving on to Friday.
Yeah, let's move on to Friday.
Last week was food truck. Wow,
that's easy for you to say, huh?
And I got my false teeth in. Food Truck Friday.
Ah,
boy, that one.
FTF.
Yeah. Oh, watch it. FTF. Well, I'll tell you, it was very successful. There was a ribbon cutting before Food Truck Friday.
Oh, that's right. At
Run Out Groove
Records over at 3607 Magnolia.
Yep, they're kind of around the corner on Cordova.
Okay.
Great turnout. I mean, Betty Porto was there, and
interesting how records have now come back into our.
Well, right there is a video VHS store.
Right.
It does VHS there on Magnolia. Jeff, who owns Run Out Groove Records, is on the Cordova side. He's got vinyl in there. He's got some record players in there.
Oh, you can buy a record because I say, where do you buy a record player? It's like, where do you go to buy a radio? Even you can't go to Radio Shack.
No, yeah.
In fact, I don't even think Radio Shack even sold radios.
But Jeff Ferguson is the one that brought back Food Truck Fridays. He opened his business down there. He heard from a lot of the new merchants that are along Magnolia that. We got to bring it back. They had over 21 food trucks along the boulevard. I was there for the ribbon cutting, and then I drove up Magnolia. There were a ton of people out walking.
I saw, Devin Miranda did a little video and talked to him in the video and a little what was going on. So
yeah, I saw that. She, it was a cute little YouTube. It's on
she asked, she said, can I do a little video? I said, sure, go ahead. And she did a very nice job with it. Looked very professional.
Yeah, so
she did the editing. She did everything with it. We didn't do a thing to help her. Oh, she did it all. So I was very impressed with it.
Oh, not bad. And like I said, she did a good job with that. Friday night, Food Truck Friday was successful. Jeff is, the company that comes and cleans up and picks up and all the little things that go with it.
Explain the benefit of Food Truck Friday. It's just not to have food trucks go out there. Why is it for Magnolia Park? Why is it a good thing? What's the whole reason behind it?
Well, all those a lot of those shops, how it started many, many years ago, 4 women that owned dress shops and apparel shops, it was done on the last Friday of the month because they weren't making their rent on the first of the month. So they brought in some food trucks. They were making money on the last Friday of the month. They were able to make their rent. Well, that had worked for a long time. It grew. Ashley Erickson had taken it over. It turned into a ladies and gents night out. It went from Hollywood Way all the way up to Florence, 30, 40 trucks. It was a big thing going on. And then COVID hit. A lot of trucks went out of business.
Yeah.
And it costs money to do it.
Everything went out of business.
Well, it costs a lot of money to put the event on. You got to have police protection. You got to have trash pickup, permits. So we couldn't, Magnolia Park, I sit on the Magnolia Park board, the board member. We couldn't afford it. So Jeff went, and if you bring in so many trucks, it'll pay for the event. And
so many people pay the trucks, they pay a percentage back to Magnolia Park.
Yes.
And that's the money that then pays for the, for the trash pickup, for the police presence, for all those things,
Plus, we have some sponsors. Not all the food trucks. We'd like to get a couple more food trucks. But those sponsors help pay for the event. And you can't do it in the cold winter. Magnolia Park merchants used to do it all throughout the year. Well, you find it starts getting cold.
It's probably more of a spring, summertime, or even a fall event too,
So now it's only going to be through October.
And of course, November is the big
holiday in the park.
Holiday in the park.
So that's where you'll, again, Food Truck Friday night. He has a list that goes out. You can go on the website, Magnolia Park Merchants, the website, and find out what food trucks are there. He's got a great mix of food trucks. I'll tell you, from, ice cream and cookies to lasagna, Latino.
Wait, now, where's this at?
This is all the different food trucks.
Oh, there's in trucks. Okay.
So there's a great mix of food trucks now. And, it's Burbank is changing, and there's a lot of young people.
Yes.
I find between that early hour of around 6 o'clock, you find a ton of people pushing their kids' cart. Their dogs are walking with them, and the businesses, the purpose is to bring out people to go into the businesses.
Yeah. And that's exactly, it's community. It's community.
It is.
It's unique to Burbank.
Yep.
Well, moving on to the next day, on last weekend, you attended an event for Home LA. They had a food distribution at Jocelyn, the parking lot next to the Jocelyn Center, and from what we heard, it served over 300 families. Lots of food, oatmeal, cooking oils, canned foods, pancake mixes, and cereal. So you were there. Why don't you give us a little rundown on it?
Well, they had I don't know how many trucks brought food. It was subsidized by Southern California Gas. If I recall, it was.
Oh, the gas prices the way they are. Thank God they did then.
I think we have a check. I ran the story in my Burbank, and there's a check of $175,000.
Oh, good for them.
All the food. They didn't want to turn anybody away. Burbank, there's a lot of people in Burbank hurting.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now.
There's a lot of people everywhere hurting.
And so they served. It was set up. Home LA got nonprofits in town. Gain Credit Union helped. They had 15 or so employees there. Noon Rotary, Morning Sunshine Rotary. There were organizations there to help, and what they did.
We have the Morning Rotary. We have the Noon Rotary.
Right.
Do we have a Supper Rotary now?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I tell you, the bags that they filled, and people got not just one bag put in their car. They got 2 or 3 bags. I mean, peaches, spaghetti sauce, cooking oil, pancake mix, cereal, syrup, oatmeal, bottles of ketchup, bottles of honey, cans of tuna, cans of chicken breast, a pound of rice, boxes of ramen, cans of refined beef. You got a ton of stuff.
Right. And didn't you tell you there was cars just, down the street waiting to get in? And it was
Griffith Park, down to Olive, up all the way past Virginia. They served in 2 hours. They took care of 300 cars. Nobody left without. They took everybody in line. It was such. The turnover was real quick. Home LA, is going to do it again during the holiday season.
Okay. We'll let people know in advance, Tim. We're going to do it also because I'm sure they will.
Well, they found the location is real good because there's no ball games at that early hour between 8 and 10. So they had the full use of that lot. And like I said, the food was amazing that they would give you. And like I said, I saw a lot of people, some studio workers, driving up. Those are the people that, you take $200-300 worth of groceries, and those people aren't getting money now.
Yeah, and I don't care what they say about studio. The workers who are not on strike but are being affected by the strike, they're the ones hurting right now because they didn't vote for this. They didn't ask to go out, and they don't get a benefit of a new contract when it comes out. They're going to go back, hopefully get back and do their job again. But
they do. I noticed. I looked on some of our old stories during COVID. You remember we had listed some of the restaurants that their hours and so forth. We might think about putting that list together because there's several restaurants here in Burbank that if you are a union member or you have any ID showing that you work in production, they will give you a discount on your food.
And that's it. I mean, just having a union card for writers or actors, that's nice. But then all the other jobs, the prop houses and everybody else. So you can prove you work at a thing. I think, that you should take care of them also.
I think it's Tequila's was doing it. I know Hill Street Cafe. I believe I just saw a couple of the others in town.
Why don't we say, if you're a restaurant and you're going to provide a discount to industry people right now during the strikes, let us know. And we will put a list together for.
Because right now and as we see on the news, I don't think this strike's going to end tomorrow.
No, probably not. Also on the weekend, we had a story come out. We had one of our readers contact us and said, we have had a Peeping Tom suspect come to our house twice now in July and August. And they had, still pictures of him. But so they sent it to us and said, we want to get the word out that this guy is around here looking in people's windows. And I guess they have a daughter, and he'd come around in the middle of the night and look inside her window while she was sleeping. And thank goodness it didn't bother her. She didn't wake up or anything else. And the first night, they didn't realize that it happened because they had their phone on silent and weren't getting notifications in the middle of the night. But after that first night, they upped their security cameras and everything else. And this time when he showed up, like 3 weeks later, boom, they were warned right away, and they scared him off. But so we contacted Burbank Police, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're looking for him. We want the public's help." And it's like, well, why didn't you let us know in advance then?
I read that, and I read that the police department replied to you that they're investigating it. I'm sorry, this is now the second case that why aren't they being, coming out and saying, we had the incident at the bookstore.
Yeah.
Why? All we got was one line from Burbank Police. We're not going to talk about it anymore. And then it was a big Glendale thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have this one, and the response that we get from the police are, we're investigating.
And we didn't even know, if the resident didn't contact us, nobody would have ever known about it.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't getting, I guess, any satisfaction. She goes, I want people to know about this. And, why wouldn't, and the police said, yes, we want the public's help in finding him. Well, how are you asking the public to help you?
Well, the other question that I want to bring up here, Craig, is I heard last week after the police commission meeting that this new task force that LA and LA County put together,
right?
Glendale PD, Burbank have we heard anything
Not a word.
Burbank that they're involved in this? They talked about it at the press conference.
And we have our Macy's here and our other high-end department stores.
I know people
else.
that are scared to death to go to the mall.
Yeah, and not a word about, we're involved in this and we're taking precautions. I mean, I don't think the only release we've gotten from Burbank Police is we're going to have a DUI checkpoint, and that's because they have to put it out, I think, by law.
Right.
And, we won't tell you where it is, but we're going to have one.
Yeah. Kind of just gets me that...
and, of course, here it is Monday, and we got no release saying how did the checkpoint go. Did they arrest anybody? Did they
have it?
I don't even know if they had it.
Neither do I.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of disturbing. But
Well, we're a small community.
So people know this happened, I think, in the, I can't remember exactly, 600 or 800 block of Kenwood.
Correct.
And I did not use the family's name or their exact address because I thought for privacy, it shouldn't be put out. But in that area, and I know your son's got young daughters too, and I'm sure he knows about it.
Well, he has, if you notice what the gentleman said when he wrote to you, that they had a motion light, the camera they put up was with a motion light. My son's house, he does have a camera with a motion light. You walk anywhere off the sidewalk, that light goes on.
Live in color, baby.
Oh, yeah. He has a camera pointing on his driveway, on his front porch. There's cameras available, $35 now. Wave, I think it is. Waze.
Yeah. Well, I have Ring cameras here besides my home security system, and every time it motions, it saves to the cloud, and you go look later, and it's a pretty clear picture.
Well, they're getting better. That was a problem that this gentleman I noticed.
Yeah, they're very
you couldn't make somebody out.
It was more of an infrared type picture than it was
right.
So and there was no light on it, but I still put the pictures on the things just in case.
Right. People need to be aware, what goes on outside your house, and this guy kind of creepy,
Well, here's the thing that kind of bothers me a little. Now that we can't hear Burbank police anymore, is we used to hear the stuff that a lot goes on between midnight and 6.
Oh, yeah.
A lot goes on. And now we have no idea anymore what's going on. Who knows what's going on in this city anymore?
Yep.
And that to me is disturbing by itself. With the fact transparency has now gone out the window.
Well, you're right. Things can go on now. If there was, yesterday at Del Amo Mall or a couple of days ago, would we ever know? If things go on in our city, will we ever be told, or find out about it so the community can know? Burbank's a tight community, and that's how you keep it safe.
Yeah, well, there's a real media blackout now, so it's really not a good situation. Not when people need to be informed.
Right. Yep.
Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break here, and we will be right back with you.
Say you're broke?
How would you like your business advertised in this very spot? My Burbank Talks is looking for local businesses interested in a 30-second spot to appear in our podcasts. If you're interested, please email advertising@myburbank.com, and we'll be glad to discuss all the exciting possibilities with you. Now, back to our podcast.
Okay, everybody, we're back with you, and now for the week that will be, which is the week that is currently going on. To start with, Ross, they've done it again. We've had this week, not a lot going on this week, really.
Is that because Labor Day?
Well, yeah,
you got to get ready for it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You got to clean the barbecue.
There's 3 meetings this week, 3 meetings, and one of them on Tuesday is called dark. It means the city council is not going to meet on Tuesday.
No, I think that's an official meeting now.
Dark meeting.
Dark meeting.
Well, it's funny. There's an action agenda that says dark meeting. It says they're not going to have a meeting. It's kind of funny to have an agenda out for nothing. But who knows? That's probably Brown Act stuff.
Brown Act.
So
we have a
we
have a button for that
for the Brown Act. Well, I don't know. Maybe no, I don't think we have a button for it.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow, so there's 2 meetings going to be held that were held tonight. That's it. There's 2 meetings a week, and they're going to be both held tonight, and they're both at the same time. So why couldn't we have one meeting on Wednesday, one tonight? So if someone wanted to go to both meetings, they could. No, you got to pick your meeting if you want to go see meetings. So I don't understand the philosophy behind 7 meetings last week, 3 meetings this week, but only 2 being held at the same exact time. Doesn't make sense to me. Once again, who's talking to who? Where's transparency in the city as far as people want to be involved in things? I don't know. So we had the planning commission met at 6:00, and they were going to hear about they had a public hearing on a zone text amendment to modify the existing development standards for accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. So that's kind of just talking about ADUs and stuff like
I want to interject something here. There was a fire in town today, I believe up in the 2000 block of Kenwood.
Kenwood, yes.
And I heard them get on scene, and they had smoke visible, They had a house.
It was an attic fire, yeah.
But then there was an ADU behind that was involved in fire. You know, you think about people building ADUs. You drive down the street, you can't tell there's ADUs in people's backyards. So the fire department gets on scene. You see some smoke. You go in the first house. You got an ADU burning in the back. I mean, it just kind of gets me that the firemen are now supposed to have ESP and know what's in people's backyards, because people can build them. And
yeah.
How will they know?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a real good point. The Community Development Goals Committee had a meeting.
What's that known as? The
CDBG.
A good friend, Glenn Duke, may rest in peace. He loved working on that committee, and he always would say CDBG. And everybody would say, what does CBGG mean?
Oh, it's really he could pronounce it faster than anybody else. So, and their whole meeting is about programs for the fiscal year 23-24 and an upcoming schedule for fiscal year 24-25. So
just want to.
It didn't really stay on the agenda. It's a very limited presentation on the agenda. So,
but you know what? I think I should probably explain. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grants. These are federal funds that are given to each city. Burbank has a committee that decides where those funds go. So if you didn't know what, as I said it fast, CDBG meant was Community Development Block Grants.
I'm pretty sure it seems like the same organizations all get them every year, the same grants and the same thing, and
it's pretty well broken down. Yeah.
It goes to needy sources. It's not,
Well, it is also handicap ramps in parts of the city that need to be replaced, stuff like that. The things that the federal government puts money aside for.
Well, Tuesday, that being tomorrow, or who knows what day it is when you're watching or listening to this later. It's supposed to be, from what I hear, hot. And
I did put hot.
hot. It says use the cooling centers, but we never got any kind of a notice from the city saying if there were cooling centers or where there would be. But I know in the past they've used the Buena Vista Library, and I also just suggested go see a weekday movie at AMC. They're air-conditioned theaters, and
the price of tickets went back from $4 to $200.
Yeah.
But you got the libraries, Burbank Town Center, air conditioning blowing in that place all the time. I bet some of their security people would love to see new faces.
I'd love to see any faces.
But tomorrow, and it's, we put it down. If you have a relative or a neighbor that is climbing up there, they might not be able to pay their power bill, so they turned it off. Tomorrow's not the day to turn it off. Check on your elderly, check on your neighbor, and for yourself, I highly say, besides that, stay well hydrated.
Well, the My Burbank Weather Center hit 100 today at 12:38. So,
wow.
And usually it's the hottest times are usually around 3 or 4 o'clock. So, and it's supposed to be hotter tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
It's gonna be roasting out there. Save on gas and roast and scramble your eggs in the sidewalk on the hood of your car.
I remember when people have tried that. It's going to be toasty. It's I believe there's weather alerts, heat alerts have been put out. I know LA City has put stuff out about their cooling centers. Again, I have been a victim of dehydration more than once. It happened to us right here at the studio a couple weeks ago. I was out covering a story, and I was out in the heat without a hat on for over an hour. I didn't replenish my water, and Craig wasn't sure if I was going to sign out that
I don't know if I'm going to give you water or just hose you down.
Or call 911. And if you talk to people at the hospital, when you can't think straight, when your body is just so wet and you can't understand things, probably dehydration. Happened to Jay Leno a couple years ago. Carted him off to the hospital and found out 2 days later it was dehydration.
I'll tell you a little secret that maybe that might help people. Your body only has so much energy in it, of course, you know, and you put food in to recharge your batteries and all that. But if your eyes start to get sore, that's when you've hit the 75% mark, because your eyes take more energy than any other part of your body. So when your eyes start getting sore, that means you're starting to run out of energy. And that's from my baseball days. That's why I'll wear sunglasses. Because you're outside, wear sunglasses, because without sunglasses, your eyes use a lot more energy. So by having sunglasses on, it helps protect your eyes, you know, your vision and everything, but it also helps your body energy in the long run too.
Yeah, you know, it's those little warnings. Just take note. And God forbid, do not leave your dog or your kids in a car and let them cook to death. Literally. People
and it happens every year.
Oh, we used to hear calls all the time. Cars in a parking lot. I just was running in for something, and then you run into the store and you don't realize you run into an old neighbor and you're talking for 20 minutes while your dog is in a car that's 150 degrees.
It's like the people who want to leave their car running and to get something and they forget it, you know, someone comes and steals their car with their kid inside it. You know, not funny because it happens. I mean,
yeah,
this is real life, people. You know, there are bad people out there looking for opportunities.
Opportunists, you better believe it.
Okay, let's move to Friday. Not a lot going on. It's a very quiet week as the holiday approaches us. On Friday, we're going to have a what do you call it? It's a
it's a change of command.
Change of command. Yes, in the fire department, where our current fire chief Eric Garcia is going to bid adieu, and they're going to welcome Danny Alvarez, who just was the chief at Santa Monica and now coming to Burbank as of September 1st.
Coming back to Burbank.
Yeah, coming back to Burbank, and they're going to have a ceremony at Fire Station 11 on the apparatus floor. I'm sure you're going to be there to chronicle it and see what goes on. So,
boy, I have to add another number to how many chiefs I've answered to since I started shooting. But Danny is familiar with the Burbank Fire Department. He's been here before, and when they placed Chief Garcia in the place of the chief 7 or 8 years ago, it was up between Eric Garcia and Danny Alvarez. They both had the same amount of education merits. Well, at that time, the city manager chose Eric Garcia. Danny was the deputy chief. Well, Danny found a better job at the time. He wanted to be chief, so he went to Santa Monica. They have, I think, one less station than Burbank.
I think he was only there 9 months, too.
Yeah, he was, but coming back to Burbank. So the only thing, there's the last class. You probably won't know them that well, you know, but it's okay because I see these guys and I don't know them. You know, I'm around a lot.
Yeah, but weren't you there when he was a rookie coming in?
I was. I have pictures of Danny being, you know, all these chiefs. That's what gets me. You know, I've been doing this for 50 years. And yeah, when he was a rookie, so he'll be taking the reins as of September 1st and so forth.
Well, my first suggestion is figure out a way to get a fourth paramedic unit in Burbank. That's my
Did you hear that yesterday?
No, wait.
Burbank was all busy and they were rolling.
Oh, well, that happens all the time. They're rolling Glendale or Pasadena paramedics into Burbank because they're just...
Well, the other problem is, as they call it, wall time. When they take somebody into a hospital now and there's no beds, those paramedics are tied up.
Yes.
And they don't realize you got an emergency call. You can't say, well, we don't. It's like roll, and they do.
And they're hearing the calls go out and saying, we need to get out of here and go to that, but they can't. They're stuck. You know, and you're talking about a heart attack somewhere, and you're rolling an RA from Pasadena.
Oh, yeah.
That's a 20-minute trip. And, yeah, you'll have an engine company who's close by, but they don't have what a paramedic unit has with it, you know, and the equipment and the drugs and everything else.
Well, all Burbank engines now, besides the guys having EMT status, they've all been paramedics on those rigs, so they know a little more now, and they can start.
That's a job that's just extremely honorable. I'm very gracious to all those people. I thank goodness I haven't needed them in a while or at all, but I'm sure that day will come, and you're in their hands.
And why don't you might as well plug that EMS program that you're a member of.
That's true. I've been a member of the EMS program in Burbank for easily 15 years, maybe 20 years. And my dad had to, one time, before he passed, he had to go to the hospital and they transported him. And it was funny because I actually got a bill for $1,200. And I went up to the department and I said, wait, why did I get a bill here when I'm in your program? And I think it was, I want to say maybe Mark Hatch at the time. He said, let me have that. He went and said, it's taken care of. Don't worry about it. It's in the system. I never saw another bill again. But it's $5 a month. For $5 a month, everybody in your household is covered on any Burbank paramedic call. And I do say Burbank paramedic call. If you're in LA, you're still at their mercy. But if they come to your house in Burbank and have to transport, I mean, the minimum amount, I think, is around $1,500 now.
Oh, yeah.
And, they charge more if they turn the siren on to take you to the hospital. And they have to turn the sirens on now because they have to get you there quicker so that you can become available sooner for another call. So it's a vicious circle, but it's something that it's a good program for $5. I mean, really, $60 a year.
And you can sign up with your water and power bill.
Yeah, it's on your water and power bill every month.
It's just flawless.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's something that it's a great program in Burbank.
Yep. And there's another celebration.
There is.
On Friday.
Burbank High is having a birthday. And for once, you can say that you were not at the first one. Because Burbank High is turning 115 years old.
Happy birthday.
And they're having a special anniversary party. I guess the special guest is going to be the class of 1967's Anson Williams, who we all know from Happy Days. And he was a Burbank High graduate, like I say, in 67. So I think that... I don't think 67... Is that 67 correct?
Wait, my sister was 63. Ron is 72.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure. Maybe that...
Was he 5 years older than Ron, I guess, or...
That's what they told me, the person that texted me. They have a lot going on.
I thought he was younger. I could see 77, but you know what? Maybe somebody got it. It's either 67, 77, or who knows, but he is a graduate of Burbank High, was in Happy Days, and I guess has a nice little career besides that, Yep.
Well, they got a lot going on. They got the football game is at Burbank High.
Yep.
Normally, they do it at Memorial Stadium. That night, they're doing it at Burbank High. There's activities around the campus. I believe each year is going to be represented, and lots of activities and so forth. We might have somebody be able to cover that besides our sports guys.
Well, we'll take a look at that. Don't forget, we have the Labor Day weekend coming up, and thank goodness the temperatures will probably go down a little bit for that. So we're going to have a better, a little bit. You can go outside and do some things, but it's funny, is back in the day, that was always the last weekend before school would start. And now we're 3 weeks into school. I feel bad for those kids in 100-degree classrooms. But back then, we didn't have air conditioning. You know what else we had back then they don't have now? Smog days. Smog days?
You couldn't see the Burbank Hills.
I would sit out there at Stevenson Elementary School on the asphalt, on the playground. You couldn't see the hills. You couldn't see. It was just gray. And you didn't think twice about it.
Yep.
But that's what we were all breathing in back then. So they had smog days. You had to stay inside and everything else. And it's all improved.
You also remember Labor Day weekend? What telethon was always here?
It was always a Jerry Lewis telethon.
For years for MDA.
Yeah.
When he passed away, things changed.
You know what? We'd all watch it. But you know why? Because there was no cable TV and streaming services back then,
That's
so
right.
And it's just like in the middle of the day on a Monday, there's nothing to watch.
That's right.
So you always watch that for some reason.
Yep. He raised a lot of money for MDA, and I know they still probably could use donations. I know some people that have muscular dystrophy. So,
well, we don't have a Ross's rant this week because Ross is actually content in his life, which I don't believe that, but he wants us all to believe that. But I'm going to give you a gripe. I've got a gripe. And my gripe is very simple. And once I say what the gripe is, you're going to agree. Where are all the 24-hour restaurants in Burbank? We have lost the ability to eat basically after 10 o'clock at night. And to me, that's a huge, I mean, you and I are both late night, because a lot of things go on at nighttime. And even after our show, we're recording our show for you listening live. It's right now it's 10:46 p.m. So we would usually go out and get and the only option we have in the city of Burbank is Denny's by the airport. That's it. So Coral Cafe, not 24 hours anymore.
Bob's,
not 24 hours anymore. Frank's, not 24 hours, not even open. But there's nowhere in Burbank to eat at night, late night. And what about the people who do work until midnight or 1 o'clock, and they need to go out and before it was funny because even the people the bars close at 2. So I know at Bob's and some restaurants between 1:30 and 3, they'd always be busy with the bar crowd that left the bars at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Where do they go now? Everybody has to leave the city and go eat somewhere else.
Yeah, and personally, I don't like leaving Burbank, but two, I know COVID changed a lot of things, but there used to be production companies that work 24 hours. They don't just work 9 to 5 anymore. That's a field, and there's different things in this city that do operate 24 hours. None of those.
I mean, I get a small town where there's a small town, and the sidewalks all close at 8 o'clock at night, and everybody's in home and sitting by their fire and whatever they do. But we're in Burbank here. We're the media capital. When movies end and everything else, where are people now going to spend their you got to get out of a movie at 10 o'clock. Where are you going to go spend your money now? Well, I have to go to Glendale. I have to go to North Hollywood. I have to go somewhere else and spend my money at night. So I understand the reasons. I mean, restaurants are there to make money. They're not a public service. But my advice to these restaurants is be open later, because there's a lot. If you're the only game in town, people are going to show up. Close at 2 a.m., close at 3 a.m. and be closed until 11 the next day. That's fine, but there's nowhere to eat. And I got to tell you, Denny's, it's all right, but it's not really where I want to go. And it's not, I do like to spend my money with a local business, where it's going to help a local person. Denny's is a corporation.
Well, when we've gone there, we've seen a homeless person living out the front door. Inside, there's a guy that sleeps in the back booth. It looks like he's taken up residency there.
And what did we see last week there? Who left his little tinkle there inside?
Oh yeah, a guy walks in with a dog, and dog pees on the corner of the counter,
and nobody knew about it. If you wouldn't have said something to the guy, he goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah, look down there. It's unless you have a yellow food coloring on the ground down there, then."
Yeah.
So that's my gripe, is the fact that we've lost all of our. And I talked to the people at Coral, and I said, I've got certain rules. I never go to a restaurant the last hour it's open, because I think number one, all the waiters and waitresses are trying to do their side work to get out of there on time, because they don't get paid when when they close. So they're busy doing their side work, and they're not busy worrying about you. The cooks are getting things cleaned up in the kitchen, and whatever's got laying around, they're just going to use it quickly. And I think there's a lot of, I just don't like the last hour of restaurants open. I just think it's it's more of a calamity.
It's not the same.
No, it's a calamity is what it is. And you're just a victim of the calamity, and it's nobody doing it on purpose. It's just the way, if you paid waiters and waitresses an extra half hour after the place was closed to do their work, it wouldn't happen. But they don't do that.
Yeah, it's no fun going in when they're vacuuming.
Yeah,
the floor when you're eating,
they're filling the bottles up, and they're all that stuff going on. So, but I was talking to the people at Coral, and they said, we really don't make a lot of money all night, and besides that, we're actually having trouble hiring people to work. I get that. That's our new society now. But I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but it's just, I'm saying this to you, if you have a restaurant out there, think about being the only game in town. Because
it kind of gets me, all these office buildings that are in the media district. I wonder, a lot of those people are going over to the Warner Brothers property, the buildings that they built. What are they going to do? Because not everybody wants to work in an office anymore. I wonder if some of these high rises you're going to see turn into residential. And then if you do, more people are going to want to eat.
Well, on past Riverside, in that area, we have 24 restaurants in a 3-block area with 4 different coffee houses. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where you can't. I'll tell you, how many is going to 2 years from now? How many are still be in business?
Well, we are. I have put together a list, and we're going to have a special podcast.
Yes, back in the day.
Back in the day, and I compiled this list over 100 different restaurants that have come and gone in Burbank.
Some are very well known, and some are our favorites.
Yeah,
and they still didn't. They didn't make. Sometimes people retired. Sometimes because they just went out of business. Not enough public support.
Talks about it today. Gourmet 88. Yesterday there was their last day, 27th. The guy decided to retire, the owner. They also got a rent increase, at least, so he decided.
We're going to look into that because there's also somebody on, we have a new bookkeeper we're looking at, and she said there's a restaurant on Alameda, I guess across from the Trader Joe's, a little pizza place. And he's being kind of forced out by high rent now, too. So I'm thinking to myself, we're worried about, and rightfully so, we're worried about residents being forced out with high rents and renovations and all these things. But what about our small business owners who are now being told, your rent's high? We had that problem at Magnolia Park for a while where they're raising the rents to these businesses, these mom and pop businesses, and they said, we don't make enough to pay that rent. We don't work to put food on your table. We work just to survive.
Well, you think about it. That's a lot of cup of coffees to pay rent, and some of the other things. It's
it's funny. Years ago, I always wondered how many. You had Xerox places everywhere. You wanted a Xerox here. A copy. Xerox is a trade name, but you know what I'm talking about. So you wanted a Xerox of something. You wanted a copy of a, whatever it was, 4 or 5 pages. You'd go into a place. It was 5 cents a copy, and you'd make your 5 copies or your 10 copies. That'd be 50 cents or $1. And I used to wonder how many copies do you have to sell in a day to, pay your rent, pay your utilities, pay your employees, and then still make money. And guess what? How many copy places do you see nowadays? You don't see many.
Well, also back in the day, here in Burbank, I happen to know probably 6 printing places. They used to print scripts.
Yeah.
So they made their money on production companies bringing in their scripts, and they would have to have them done.
2 or 3 cents a page, and it was they used to do that all the time. But now,
I think
my dad used to go to print shop all the time and have typesetting done. Well, you go to I remember back to Gordon Rouse at Burroughs, and you had to set type with the little lead things and put them into a
linotype.
Linotype, yeah. So. People don't really.
Well, go before that.
Are we that old?
Over at Jordan, I had Frank Pellegrino, Mr. Pellegrino, with his crew cut hair, black haircut, and he was the print. I love going into the print shop. That thing smelled. I would inhale as much as I could. But I remember doing all the tickets for the school productions and all that in print shop. And then when we got to go to Burroughs, I love having print shop in that 500.
And Gordon Rouse was a great guy. He really was. He just, his philosophy was, I'm down here. Nobody knows in the administration where I'm at. I haven't hit at the end of the school. I'll just do my own thing.
Yeah.
And it's all good, So
may he rest in peace.
Like the shops over at Jordan, I was always lucky enough to have Chester Foos.
Yep, Mr. Foos.
And you used to get in trouble with him. He'd go, "Yo, Sherwood, out by the fence. Out by the fence." He was I guess a German person, and he had that German accent, and he had a temper. And
Don Holler, I remember in drafting, and Yeah, they don't have those classes
anymore.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate because your auto shops, who's going to fix your car when it breaks down? Who's going to fix, who's going to come in and be your handyman to build a cabinet for you? Who's, going to IKEA is not always the answer, So I think that, our schools are doing a disservice in not having more trade classes because even if 60 to 70% of the people go to college and of those, maybe 40% graduate from college, that still leaves 25% who never even go. And they need to get jobs and they need to and they may not want to read a book or punch a computer. They may want to work with their hands and they want, to get an internship somewhere and learn a trade. And we need those people, but we're not preparing those people for the workforce.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, I remember I had Dave Goodlaw in auto shop, and next door was Danny Gantz in Advanced Auto, but I had Mr. Goodlaw for years. Good old Dave, I still, to this day, do things that if I have a problem with a car, I take and what did he teach you? You go look at a car, tire, you spell things out, electrical, you start with your battery. I still go by all those things that I learned in high school from.
Good valuable information. Well, that was my gripe is that we got off track, but still, I'd like to see more restaurants or any restaurant being open for 24 hours in Burbank or at least late at night. We always want to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a comment or send us an email and we'll look it over and even talk about it maybe. So
yeah, write us. We have some great podcasts. If you go to myburbank.com or My Burbank Talks, Devin last week did a great podcast with Linda Murphy, who is an Olympic star. She taught here in Burbank.
Olympic, she's in the Olympics, yeah. and helped start women's sports
here in Burbank. That was a great podcast. Ashley Erickson has a couple of great ones. So take a look and listen to our podcast, My Burbank Talks.
Absolutely. Easy for you to say. You have to get all choked up about it. Okay, everybody, that's it for another week of the week that was, and of course, the week that will be.
Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Be safe.
And we will talk to you next week.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, UME Credit Union, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Gain Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.